Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Motorsports. Apologies for being a bit late. Turns out it's the end of the month, it's payday, and everyone's forgotten how to drive. So stuck in a little bit of traffic and then a couple of technical issues just to make things a little bit interesting on a Friday night. But we are live, and the good news is that there's no traffic on track with FP2 in the main event for me in the Formula One Canada, the Monaco Grand Prix. This is the second practice session of the weekend. It is a Friday evening, and I think this is Max Verstappen riding on board with, or Sergio, I don't know, Perez. I don't know what's quite going on there, but anyway, we are into FP2. And the Ferraris, once again, let's not get too excited, seem to be top of the leaderboard. But a couple of issues here. George Russell now talking on the radio, talking about some issues with his vibrations. A little bit of porpoising, apparently, happening for George Russell. But welcome to the stream. Let's settle in here, shall we, people? It's been a fun time. Today we had a very interesting first practice session, and we're already seeing much faster lap times, as probably expected, early on in this second practice. As I mentioned in the first practice, the qualifying time last year, or the Quali 3 for Max Verstappen, was at about that 1:11.3 mark, and we're sitting at the 1:12.2 so far from Charles Leclerc, who currently leads the top of the leaderboard. A very interesting leaderboard, which features Lewis Hamilton in second, Fernando Alonso in third, Lando Norris at fourth, Max Verstappen at fifth. Then you've got George Russell and Charles Leclerc just going even faster, by the way, threatening to break that 1:12 barrier. We then got George Russell, Carlos Sainz, Yuki Tsunoda continuing his decent run of form, Lance Stroll at 9th, Perez at 10th. So both those Aston Martins sitting in the top 10 so far. We're going to put a poll up in the comments. I want to know what you guys want to chat about. What should the poll be? And please go get your comments into the chat. Let's have a conversation, shall we? Let's talk about where we're at. Gasly, by the way, who had a terrible first practice, engine issues around the entire practice, barely got out there, is having a much better session. He's actually sitting at 18th. He didn't clock a single lap that was faster than anybody in the first practice. So a bit better for him so far in the second practice. But let's get the conversation going. So I'm seeing some of the comments that quickly saying, Lucy's saying, I know it's an iconic track, but I just can't seem to like Monaco. Maybe a bit controversial, but meh. Old man who's saying F1 has outgrown Monaco. There's always talk of maybe not racing there, but it has the history. I think that's the main thing. It does have the history. You know, like as a fan, for example, and especially the new fans maybe who are interesting for Verstappen, also talking about some porpoising there, by the way, apparently jumping around. Lewis Hamilton, meanwhile, setting a fastest first sector. Maybe for the newer fans who, just enjoy the racing aspect, overtaking, the competitiveness, this is not their favorite track because there have been issues with Monaco being very narrow street circuit, very wide cars these days. Not a track that lends itself to a lot of racing, wheel-to-wheel racing. But it's iconic, isn't it? It's, you ask every single driver, what is the one race you want to win? What is the circuit you want to win? Where do you want to have a good weekend? And they will all, 20 by 20, say Monaco. This is the most famous Grand Prix. This has got, we use the term football heritage. This is Formula One heritage, is what Monaco is. So we've got to embrace it. We've got to embrace it and just, cross our fingers and hope that we're in for a good race weekend. Because there's nothing else for it, really. It's an iconic race. It's maybe not always the most entertaining race, but it's about the weekend. It's about the experience, isn't it? I mean, surely if I gave you all the money in the world, I love the replays of how close these cars, in particular the circuit, get to the barriers and stuff like that is mental. But if it's, even as a fan, I think if I were to give you a carte blanche budget and say, go to one Formula One, it has to be Monaco, doesn't it? For me, it has to be Monaco. This is the Formula One that, the location, the atmosphere, the history, the circuit, there's so much to it. Yes, for example, like last year, the Las Vegas Grand Prix ended up promising and delivering the best Grand Prix from maybe not an entertainment point of view with regards to a close race, an interesting race, lots of overtaking. It produced a lot of drama. but it just doesn't have the history, doesn't it? So I suppose, if you're a purist, this is your Grand Prix. If you're a new fan that just enjoys the racing, maybe not your favorite. But at the end of the day, this is where we are for the weekend, and having a look at those super yachts busy watching on. And an interesting, as I said, top 10 there. The Aston Martins have had a better start to the session so far. Sergio Perez still remains quite far down the leaderboard, sitting at 12th. The Haas's having a slow start, as well as Danny Rick, who I think it was actually the first season of Drive to Survive, won this Grand Prix, and it was an iconic win for him. It was a time where he was talking about his future. He didn't feel like he was being backed as a driver. They thought that they were putting all the money, all the time, all the effort into Max Verstappen, for example, and he felt he had to prove himself, and he went and won this Grand Prix. And there's an iconic photo of him diving into the pool, or falling into the pool, with his arms out. So this is a Grand Prix. It's got a lot of history for Danny Rick, but he's not had a good start to the weekend. And I suppose maybe the good thing is, I suppose you can only get better from here. But not been a good first two sessions so far from Danny Rick, with Yuki Tsunoda already looking substantially faster than his teammate. But the good news, by the way, is we are below the 1 minute 12 second mark. Leclerc going 1:11.573 on a set of mediums as well. So that qualifying winning time last year of 1:11.3, I reckon, is under threat. I reckon you'll probably have to be faster than that to take pole on tomorrow, I suppose. This time tomorrow, in fact, it's actually even earlier. This time tomorrow, we'll actually know the pole. Because the qualifying starts at 4 o'clock, always an hour earlier on the Saturday than they are on the Sunday. So make sure you remember that, so that you don't think it's starting and then miss it by an hour, because, well, there'll be a bit of a rookie error. So this is me reminding you not to do it. But let's settle in. I'm trying to think of a good poll, and if you guys have any suggestions, then that would be highly appreciated with regards to a decent poll to have. But let's go to some of the comments, shall we, and see what you guys have all got to say. Bob's gone back to study for his exams. Hello, Larry from Cape Town. I hope you're well. JP saying, I'm wondering if this is a tactic by Red Bull to lure us into thinking they aren't quick, only to then dash our hopes in quali. We see it every weekend, don't we? Maybe Red Bulls are struggling. To be fair, I think in Imola, they were genuinely struggling. I mean, they spun out. They almost had accidents. That was more than just not letting on how good they are. But genuinely, we often don't see a lot from the Red Bulls in the practice sessions, and then qualifying, bang, they hit it. Buck saying Mercedes is turning their engines 100%. Yeah, Mercedes are looking fast, which is good to see. Russell maybe not so much this session, but Hamilton looking very good early on here. Yanni's saying, hello, everyone. Nice to see you here at the Max Show. Well, the practice isn't the Max Show just yet. He is third fastest. So still there and thereabout, but not quite, hitting track record or anything like that just yet. But we are only just over 20 minutes into the session, so plenty of time. The cars have been out for about 20-odd minutes now. They'll come in now, get a bit of tweaks, and they'll then go out and get some more information, and we'll start to gather exactly where we are for the weekend. But as I imagine that 1:11.3 will probably be threatened. So Charles Leclerc so far, the fastest in the weekend, in fact, with that at 1:11.573, 0.2 of a second off that qualifying pace last year. And he's done that on a set of mediums. So we will probably go faster, which is kind of what you expect every year. The track records and the track times tend to come down as the cars get faster. But unfortunately, I think a lot of people, and the issue they have with Monaco is that the cars are not only getting faster, but they're getting bigger. In terms of wider, in terms of how much literal car there is, which is maybe why this Monaco Grand Prix has fallen off a little bit, because it's just so difficult to overtake in such a narrow circuit with such big cars. But we'll have to wait and see. They've got to make big decisions, don't they, with regards to the biggest calendar ever. This is the longest Formula One season we will ever have. And the question is it quality? Is it quantity over quality, or is it quantity and quality? So that's kind of what we got to decide. And it's an interesting discussion to have with regards to how do you get it right? Because we want to have as much Formula One as we want to. And obviously, from a commercial point of view, they're always going to chase the revenue and make sure they're getting as many races as possible, because you make as much money. But you don't want to compromise the product in trying to chase the revenue. And that's, I think, where they're kind of sitting at now, where it's the longest season, but, there's certain races where they feel maybe they're not getting quite the product they want. And there are other races they want to add. So, for example, as a South African fan, I want to see us back at Kyalami. I want to go to a race. I want to watch a bit of Formula One. When do I get to watch some Formula One? And the problem is now, if you want to add another race to the calendar, what drops away? Because there's no more space in the calendar to keep adding races. And people have actually even gone as far as saying, well, drop Monaco. It's a race where a lot doesn't happen. It's a boring race, not so much a track, but a boring race because there's not a lot of overtaking. And people are sort of getting less nostalgic about the history, because I think we've got a generation of Formula One fans due to Drive to Survive, which are very new to the sport, that 10 years ago weren't watching the sport. So it's an interesting because it's not like, football, for example, there's the concept of legacy fans. I don't think there's as many legacy fans as a proportion in Formula One compared to football. So it's an interesting conversation. But going back to the practice with just over half an hour to go, Hamilton is faster than George Russell, substantially faster at the moment. But shout out to Alex Albon, who a week ago I think it was the first practice, had to park his car due to engine issues. Well, he is currently sitting, and I'm not joking, second fastest with a 1:12.452. Not a bad time. Sergio Perez has just gone faster than him, and he's gotten at 1:12.336. So Charles Leclerc, the only person to actually go under 1 minute 12 seconds so far this session. But that's a nice time there for Alex Albon. He's got a contract for next season at Williams, so probably needs to sort of show himself a little bit about what he's about. But decent. And unfortunately, it's bad reading if you are a Danny Ricciardo fan, because he currently sits dead last on the session time. So, yeah, not been a good time for him, and needs to show more, does Danny Rick. So my poll is going to be, I'm going to do a Danny Rick poll, because everybody loves a Danny Rick. Should Red Bull back Danny Ricciardo, or I want to say dispose of him, or move away from him? Fuck it. Sack it. Or sack him. Option 1, stick with him. Option 2, sack him. We're going to be brutal. We're going to be brutal. It's a Friday evening. We're going to be brutal. Meanwhile, Charles Leclerc is flying around this track. He has set a fastest first 2 sectors. Could he threaten that 1:11 mark and get below that qualifying time from last week? Yeah, I'll tell you what, he has gone faster. That is faster than the qualifying time last year. So if he were to set that tomorrow in qualifying, he would be looking very much at the front of the grid. At his home Grand Prix, the Monegasque is looking fast. And isn't that what we want to see, eh? Is this not what we want to see? We want to see the Monegasque driver at his home Grand Prix setting some fast lap times. Fernando Alonso going in at third fastest as well. Good to see. But the poll is, what are we doing with Danny Rick? There's over 160 of you guys watching. Only 14 votes. Go and vote. Do Red Bull A stick with him, back him? There's talent, there's pedigree, there's proven race winners in him. Or do they sack him? He's past it. He's old. He should retire. What do they do? Let me know in the comments below, and feel free to throw a comment about how you feel about Danny Ricciardo and what your opinion is with regards to what they should do for them. So riding on board here with Sergio Perez, and let's see what's happening here. Not sure there's an incident. Looking at turn 3 here. Cheap as me, yeah. I think it's talking about the bouncing. A lot of the drivers complaining about the bouncing. We've had Max complaining about it. I think it was George Russell's complaining about it. So the porpoising, as they call it, seems to be pretty bad so far here. It looks like we're watching Fernando Alonso going around. James Vowles, the Williams team principal, is on the mic this weekend, but unfortunately can't hear what he has to say at the moment. So we'll try and relay that back a little bit later. But there we go. Max Verstappen, by the way, has decided he wants to get in the action. He becomes the second driver of the session to go under that 1:12 mark. And Lance Stroll has decided, well, you know what? I can't be completely outdone by Fernando Alonso. I've got to start throwing myself in there as well. He comes in there with a decent time as well. Lucy's saying the Ferraris are showing promise, maybe a little bit too much promise. Maybe it's starting to, is it selling me dreams? Am I ready to get my heart broken? These are the questions. Not sure I am. But we've got a McLaren who is stationary in the pits. And Old Man Roo saying, I'm a little biased, but I'm also wondering if he can regain his form. Well, this is the thing. You talk about form is temporary, class is permanent. And Daniel Ricciardo is a race winner. He won this race. And he believes he can contend for championships. He believes he's that good. So, to not have him in Formula One at all seems bizarre, but he's not young. And you've got to start making big decisions, don't you? Formula One is becoming very much a young man's game. And then you've got Alonso who comes in at 40 years old and says, no, not quite. So it's an interesting decision at the moment. And I'll mention the fact that Max into the 111s. And I am a Tifosi, into the Formula. I'm ready to get my heart broken by Ferrari. Schumi and Barrichello, they all be dreams. I grew up, my dad was a McLaren fan. Myself and my brother decided to go Mercedes, go Ferrari. You got to go Ferrari. The red shirt, the horse, the Schumacher, the dominance. A little bit like supporting Man United, I was sold dreams in my youth, and I am now paying for those decisions that I made as an uninformed youngster, because now I've got to watch the struggles of Ferrari. And again, I don't want to I'm ready to get my heart broken again. I'm ready to think that Charles Leclerc is going to come to good, and just for him to probably go and crash in like the third lap. Yanni's saying, if I was Red Bull, I wouldn't have taken Ricciardo after he left Red Bull, and he's also not the driver he used to be either. And then Lucy's saying, Daniel seems to have lost his sparkle a little. I know he felt discarded and lost his way a little, but I do feel sorry for him. Yeah, I think he just felt very undervalued by Red Bull. Made that move to Renault, for example, and said, I can move. I don't need you at the end of the day. And I think he thought he was going to be in a quicker car. I thought he thought he was going to still be able to compete, and that just was never the case since he left Red Bull. And now he's made his way back. Verstappen saying that he hit the wall, the effing wall, I believe is what the director transcript was. Let's have a look at where he hits the wall. Goes around slightly wide, and then coming through turn 7 there. Trying to see where. Oh, yeah, there he skids out a little bit. Where does he touch here? Yeah, just touched it slightly there at turn 7. Almost skids out just before the tunnel. So I think he's back in the pits now to have a look. Yep, they are going to reel him back in to see if there's any damage. Currently sitting third fastest with a Fernando Alonso going below that 112 threshold as well. So we've got 4 cars. Lando Norris has also joined that group. Lance Stroll getting faster than Perez, but not going under that 112 mark just yet. So it's a lot quicker this session, as they usually are. First of all, obviously fuel levels a bit different. Also trying to getting a little bit closer to what the race setups are going to be. I'm a Lando fan if you want to talk about heartbreak. But to be fair, what it is to be a Lando fan this season, you've won a race. You came second. You are the one that is like threatening to challenge Max Verstappen. Look, and you've had a tough time. I think it's almost a record number of podiums out of win, but you've at least won a race. As a Ferrari fan, we haven't won anything this season. I said very, very under my breath. Yanni's saying Monaco is all effing wars. Yeah, no, I flat out refuse. You could not pay me enough money to drive around this circuit in anything more than like a 900cc no turbo go-kart. No. Like, those like super yachts, you'd find me in one of them, in a car in one of them. With the amount of walls, you'll check me or flying. If you watch what's it, Herbie was Reloaded or whatever the Herbie one was, when he's on the fence, that would be me, except like not planned because it's just so narrow. And even there, you can see the Alpine flying through on a hot lap there and just going through traffic. That's gas is going to have to back off now. He'll be frustrated, but at the end of the day, that's just poor track management. He's driven into 3 cars and around corners, so you're never going to be able to get a hot lap when around that kind of traffic. You have to try again, unfortunately. As we said, my was a dream. Old Man Roo saying Lando is rising. Still haven't seen his best. He's really made Max sweat last race. Well, that's the thing. I'm not saying to everybody that, someone needs to dethrone Max, but make him work for the championship. You can't just get into a car, drive 60 laps at, this is cool and cool. You've just, boom, won the championship. It's too easy for him. You've got to make him work for it. And Lucy saying, I was on pins watching that. Another few laps. I think you've taken pole. Old Man Ruth saying Lando's rising. Still haven't. Talking about it. I've already seen that comment. But now, I don't want to get too excited as a Ferrari fan, but Charles Leclerc has just said a fastest first sector. If he were to take off just over 0.2 of a second, he'd actually be under the 111 mark. So, interesting. The official record, by the way, for Monaco is a 1:12.909. These are obviously having to be during the race. So we're well under lap record with regards to during the race conditions. That was set, by the way, by Lewis Hamilton back in 2021. Given the sort of speeds we're seeing, the times we're seeing now, could be under threat this weekend because we're seeing a lot of teams comfortably getting under the 1:12. Lonzo saying, Sainz wanted to have a 3-minute gap in Monaco. So having a bit of a go at the Ferraris there is the veteran Aston Martin driver. But Charles Leclerc looking red hot. I don't want to get my hopes up, but looking red hot. Carlos Sainz a little bit further back. Daniel Ricciardo now faster than Yuki Tsunoda, so a little bit for him to celebrate. Carlos Sainz moving up, and the Williams and the Kick Saubers well at the bottom. The Haas is ahead of both of the RBs. Albon sitting in the top 10, but Logan Sargent well behind him. Oscar Piastri also pretty far behind Norris, but the two Mercedes a little bit slower with regards to than they were in the first session, but positives there from him. And Sergio Perez has managed to get himself in that top 10. We have got just under 25 minutes left of the session remaining. Busy riding on board with Lewis Hamilton. In each of these will be his final race in the Mercedes in this particular car when he makes the move to Ferrari. Right, running on board with Lando Norris. By the way, if you're wondering why there is a weird yellow car running around Monaco, or two actually, those are the McLarens. It is a tribute to Ayrton Senna. The McLaren's running a yellow livery for this weekend, which is, and you can see there, Lando Norris locking up a little bit, and he'll have to have another go at that lap. But 23 minutes left. Looking at Fernando Alonso, who's 14th of a second behind Charles Leclerc. He's got a decent Hamilton, by the way, up into second fastest. So we have now got 6 drivers who have gone below that 1:12 mark so far. So we're looking like some decent times. Very interested to see what we see in qualifying tomorrow, whether we might start threatening that 1:11 mark. Right, that is, it looks like Williams in the pits there. So Logan Sargent's in the pits, as is Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. Now Perez, Albon. So everyone jumping in there. So a stat for you is Max Verstappen passed Kimi Raikkonen for 6th on the all-time podium list with 104 podiums in Imola. 104 podiums, and which makes him, he's the 6th most podiums ever. This kid is 26 years old. He's actually younger than me. Makes me very sad when I look at what I've achieved in my life, and I got Max Verstappen, who's got 104 podiums in Formula One. But what can you do? What can you do? But at the same time, he's no longer a youngster, and I think we've seen in the last 2 years he has matured. He won a Grand Prix when he was a teenager. So he's been around the block for somebody who is 18 years old. But yeah, we've definitely seen the maturity of him in the last few years. He's no longer sort of the petulant, overly aggressive driver who's so desperate when he'll do anything. He now understands his car, he understands himself, and he doesn't overdo it. And he's just become a bit of a Rolls Royce type driver, really. He just goes out and does his business, taking no risks, nothing unnecessary, bringing back the points, bringing back the results. And it's become metronomic, which is maybe a boring way to describe, but a very apt way of describing it, just in terms of how easy it is for them. He just goes out there and does his thing. He's not having to push to his limits. He's in a great car. He is probably the best driver on the grid, and it's far, far too easy for him. I'm busy looking at Christian Horner. The question is, will he be around in a year's time? Still a lot of uncertainty. A lot of the stories have sort of faded off a little bit, but potentially a lot of internal disputes. Adrian Newey leaving the team, going to Ferrari, which I'm very excited about. So apparently not all well at Red Bull, and I'll be very interested to see what happens moving forward. With Newey leaving, talks about Christian Horner, even talks about Max Verstappen potentially making a move and trying to push a move towards maybe like a Mercedes, for example. I don't think you did. Why would you? Unless you feel like it's about to jump ship. If you feel like you're in a sinking ship that is Red Bull, then maybe you do move and try something else. Old Man Ru's saying Oscar is a star and McLaren seem to have their act together. Red Bull are self-destructing. They may not be the hot ticket in the future. Mercedes taking a long time to be competitive again. Well, exactly that. Is Red Bull a sinking ship? Is McLaren set to move back into the epic eras? McLaren, I mean, they've that again, Formula One heritage. Always been a constant. 1985. They've been around for years and years and years and years, and it'd be so good to see them at the top of the leaderboard and contending for championships. So very, very, very cool to see that they are fast and that they've got good drivers. I think that's also obviously a very important part, that they've got a race winner now in Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, very, very talented driver. So they've got a great driver lineup. It looks like they've got a decent car as well. And the question is, how much can they compete, and what can they do in the years to come if Formula One and the regulations do start to impede on the likes of a Red Bull? Can McLaren step up and be the dominant force? Is that a genuine contenders? I mean, you think about Ayrton Senna, the 3 championships he won, Niki Lauda in the McLaren 84, James Hunt, Lewis Hamilton obviously also drove. So Mika Häkkinen. I mean, they're Formula One heritage. They've won 12 drivers' championships as McLaren, so they are a proper Formula One side or team, not side, but team. But we haven't seen the best of them recently, but we're starting to see them threaten. And I say it very, very generously and maybe even a bit loosely. They're threatened to be the team that they once was. The question is, will they kick on? Or is this a bit of a flash in the pan? And will they default back to kind of where they've been in the last few years? Cora saying, hello, everyone. I'm just back from school. I'm so happy that LEC is at the top. Yeah, good old Charles doing the business here at the moment. Long may that continue. We have got just under 20 minutes left of the session remaining. So I don't know if we'll see much faster times here. Looking at the tire compounds, for example, I don't think we'll see too much more on the softs. I think we'll see people move away from the softs and do some laps on the medium and stuff like that. We've got Leclerc, Hamilton, Alonso all in the pits. We do have the yellow McLaren still out there. Ocon going back above Gasly. He was quite high up at one stage, was as Ocon. Not been a great time. But I'll tell you who's been impressed me the most so far this session, and that's probably Alex Albon. So Esteban Ocon and Gasly sitting at 16, 17. The kickstart was 19, 20. You kind of usually see those teams at the bottom of the leaderboard alongside the Haas and the Visa Cash App Red Bull. But once again, Yuki Tsunoda well ahead of Danny Rick. And also, once again, you've got Alex Albon, who is at the moment very much just outclassing Logan Sargent. So it's been an interesting session. So race control, Tsunoda Verstappen incident impeding has been noted. Well, that's not going to go down well at Red Bull head office, with I mean, they are technically, they're not teammates, but they are teammates, same sort of factory, both Red Bull under the Red Bull Racing name there. So having a look at Lance Stroll, on board with him. He's been a little bit better this session so far than what we saw in the first session. He's kind of seeing 7th fastest, threatening that to break that 112 mark. He's the fastest person not to threat to go under 112 so far this session. Leclerc, I don't think we'll get much lower than that 111.278. We've got 15 minutes left. I don't think we'll see a time faster than that. So yeah, what are the general thoughts of the two sessions so far? We're almost a third of the way through the weekend. One more practice session tomorrow, and then we are into qualifying on Saturday afternoon. And I think we're in for a very interesting qualifying, to be honest. Looking at onboard show of Alex Albon, a green first sector, he had a second sector. Will probably coming on might improve on his his time of 1:12.554. Let's see if he can get through and a bit faster than that. That's more basically on the dot, isn't it? I think it's a little bit better than it is from Ocon. Yeah, we are looking at the Yuki Tsunoda Max Verstappen incident. And Max throwing his hands at Yuki. So not a very happy Verstappen. I'll tell you what, if you're employed officially by Red Bull, you probably don't want to piss off Max Verstappen. Probably the one person you don't want to piss off. So not having a great time out there is Yuki. Right, now riding on board with Alexander Albon. No further investigation. So apparently it wasn't that deep. So apparently Max Verstappen needs to chill. Yuki Tsunoda wasn't as at fault as Max might have thought. So no further investigation with just over 13 minutes remaining on the clock there. Let's see what Albon can do. Because clinging on to that top 10 at the moment, just slightly faster than George Russell. Through the tunnel he goes. A yellow first sector. I think it'll be a yellow second sector as well at the looks of it. Yeah, it is. About 2.8 seconds behind Charles Leclerc. So not rapid just yet from Albon, but let's see what he can come home in. And yeah, nothing spectacular there. Well, good 4 seconds in behind that time there. So as imagining, the Williams not quite in the same pace. But I said, being in the top 10, he'll take that. Lewis Hamilton now will be very, very tough with the second fastest time so far. Right, final almost 10 minutes. I think it's 11 minutes officially left. And Lucy saying Yuki never gets out of the way. Yeah, look, he's a difficult person to support or to really back because he does tend to make some mistakes, does tend to think nothing's ever his fault. As I said, I often use the word petulant. Oh, my goodness, Charles Leclerc, what are you doing, mate? You're on gravel. Not gravel. You're on straight he went. He's currently sitting on paving. Not quite where you need to be. I just love the way that they just fling out the back window, did a little bit of a quickly 360 turn there, 180 really, and back on the track they go. So not a great moment there for Charles Leclerc, but he will survive. George Russell is currently 9 points ahead of his teammate Lewis Hamilton in the Drivers' Championship, looking to try and close on the gap. But Hamilton at the moment looking a bit faster than his teammate. System 87 saying he's cheering on Leclerc for his first Monaco victory. What a moment it would be if Charles Leclerc were to win his home Grand Prix. I don't think there's ever been a Monegasque who's won the I lied like a flat fish. No, Louis Chiron in 1931 was a Monegasque that won the Grand Prix. So, but yeah, it's an interesting one looking at it because they're saying that over the years, there's been many people who are Monegasque or Monaco residents that have won the Grand Prix. I mean, half a lot of Formula One drivers live in Monaco and call Monaco their residence. But not a true Monegasque. In, like, for example, Charles Leclerc is at Monegasque, and he is from Monaco. That is who he represents. It will be the Monegasque anthem that would play if he were to win the race. So since 31, so closing on 100 years, over 90 years, 93 years, if we're being precise, since a Monegasque has won the Monaco Grand Prix. Pretty cool thing to be able to do, isn't it, if you're a Charles Leclerc? Martin Rundle's by the swimming pool at turns 13 and 14. It's an interesting place. You see the cars coming with a decent amount of speed as well coming through those turns. Less than 10 minutes on the clock, 8 minutes officially to go before we do wrap up the second practice session. Right, so earlier on, I asked you guys to vote on Daniel Ricciardo, and there's only 61 votes. Let's even get up to 100 votes. I asked you, should Red Bull back him or should they sack him? And at the moment, stick with him seems to be winning, but I want more votes on that. So 61 votes. I want to see the votes coming up. Go and vote. What do you think should happen with Daniel Ricciardo? What should Red Bull do? Yeah, Pierre Gasly, he's had a better session, but still so far off the pace. I'd love to see him in a good car. Love to see him in a good car, Pierre Gasly, because he's won a Formula One. I sometimes sound like a stuck record when I say this, but he's won a Formula One, and you can't be a bad driver if you've won a Formula One. You know what I'm saying? But he's not driving for a top team. He's driving for a bottom 5 team. And I'd love to see what he could do in a good car. Just one season. Just see. Was it a fluke? Is he that good? What's the chat? Yeah, Gasly. So in terms of running mediums, at the moment, most of them are. In terms of the best laps of the session so far, Tsunoda and Piastri have had their fastest laps on mediums, as is Ricardo. At the moment, though, majority of the field are currently running on mediums. Leclerc, Hamilton, Norris, Sainz, Stroll's on softs. Perez, Albon, Russell, all on mediums at the moment, but the fastest laps have all been set on softs for the top 10. So that fastest lap that Lewis Hamilton did was on softs. Right, team radar from Hamilton. I unfortunately couldn't hear. I was hoping to see a bit of a transcription, but nothing just yet. Right, just over 5 minutes left in the session. So I don't think we'll see much faster. So now the question is, where are we feeling with regards to qualifying? Keep voting on that poll, by the way. Let's see if we can get up to at least 80 votes. Another 12 votes would do. How are we feeling about Quali? I tell you what, I fancy a Charles Leclerc pole in Monaco. The Monegasque, and there is Mick Schumacher in the pits. He is the reserve driver for Mercedes. Will he get a seat next season? I mean, with Hamilton leaving, there will be one open. Will he be backed, or will they look at trying to bring somebody in? I personally think they'll try and bring somebody in. As I said, a Gasly, for example. I think, why not? Why not look at bringing in Pierre Gasly, giving him a chance? He's a young driver who's won a Grand Prix. He's not in a car that can really compete. He's 28 years old, so make it a young driver, maybe being a bit generous. But he's just, I've always felt like he's somebody that deserved a chance, Yes, was in around that Red Bull back in the time, but it wasn't backed, It's more than that for me. It's about backing. So so in 2019, for example, and that's 5 years ago. He was still young at the time, had that opportunity with Red Bull. We went back to Toro Rosso, made his first podium, then the AlphaTauri, where he got his first win back in 2020, and then he kicked on since then. And I'd love to see him in a Mercedes, in a McLaren, for example, and be backed. Like truly backed. Like, listen, you back, you are the number one driver. Here's a fast car. Go out and get the business done. Because I just don't think he's had that backing just yet. System 87 saying, I hope Mick should get a shot in a good car. That Haas was garbage and the team not great in terms of strategy. Well, Gunter was fired, so. So, yeah, I still rate Gasly. I'm a big Gasly fan. Cora says, her qualifying prediction is Leclerc P1, Hamilton P2, Verstappen P3. That's a good question. What is your predictions for Quali? Let me know. I want to know your 1, 2, 3. As Cora has suggested, she's gone with Leclerc, Hamilton, Verstappen top 3. What are your predictions for Quali? You've got 2.5 minutes to let me know what they are. Get them in the comments. What are you backing? Are you backing the Ferraris, Mercedes? Are you backing Red Bulls, do a Red Bull and be slow in the practice and then bang, pitch up when it comes to Quali? Let me know what you're thinking in the comments below. I'd love to hear your opinion. Love to hear what you guys are thinking. Into the final 2 minutes as the clock goes red. So you basically got time to do 2 more laps tops, really. So Hamilton at the moment was the fastest in the first practice. He's the second fastest in this practice. So he's had the pace throughout the weekend. Is this genuine pace, or is this just a bit of a launch, as I'd say? Is this a tease? Are we then going to be? Are we setting ourselves up for disappointment, thinking that Hamilton's going to be competitive only for them to just not quite be there? System 87 has gone with Leclerc, Verstappen, Alonso top three, and Lucy's gone with the same selection but slightly different. Reckons Verstappen's going to come up. No, sorry, she's got Norris. I lie. Got Verstappen, Leclerc, Norris as her top three. Pure blood going Leclerc, Piastri, Max. Interesting. First person to throw Piastri in there. Well, I do think back in McLaren is not a bad shot. Narelle Porchit is going Max, Charles, and Norris. So backing the same thing as Lucy there. So yeah, a lot of people backing Charles Leclerc. In fact, I think everyone's gone at Charles except for Narelle's going with Verstappen at first, and Cora's gone with Hamilton at top. But three people so far. And I like Lucy was going Verstappen first. So two people so far backing, three people backing Leclerc. One backing Verstappen, two backing Verstappen. Cora went to Leclerc first. So yeah, it's 40 seconds left. Right. So last opportunity now for these drivers to put in some laps. And then we are going to call it a day. BK going Charles, Max, Lewis Hamilton in the third there. So a lot of people are sticking with the same three. A couple of people are throwing the McLarens in there. We haven't seen a lot from the McLarens this session, but the last few races have shown us that the McLarens do have pace and that they should not be underestimated. So, let's wait and see exactly what that, if they do underestimate themselves or if they can get the job done. We have to wait and see, won't we? 5, 4, 3, 2. Lucy reckons that Max is sandbagging.
Hello and welcome to Forever Motorsports for this, the qualifying from Monaco. It is set to be a very exciting session ahead of us with the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc looking like the fourth field at the moment, having been over half a second faster at some points than the other cars throughout FP3 and FP2. He's looking really quite handy out on circuit. It is his home race. He's just got so many different lines to multiple other drivers, and it seems to be working for him in the Ferrari package this weekend. So just watching a comparison at the moment between himself and Lewis Hamilton, who's also been able to match the likes of Leclerc at points throughout the weekend. Just watching the Ferrari and seeing where the Ferrari is really the strongest. The first sector is kind of anyone's game. The Red Bull of Verstappen is fast through there. The Mercs are fast, as are the McLarens. But the middle sector is rarely where we see the Ferrari come alive, especially into the main Mirabeau corner. We see Charles Leclerc just get such better rotation, and it just allows him to flow into the next couple of corners that much quicker than everybody else out on circuit. He makes up more time later on circuit, mostly into Rasgas, the turn, I think it's turn 18. Yes, turn 18 on the circuit. He just takes a much earlier line into that corner, hugging the barrier on the inside, one that people would normally be quite nervous of because getting too close to the barrier can, of course, mean the end of your lap. But he just is able to take that corner that much tighter and gain the traction and the time through there, and it allows him to steal a lot of time away from his competitors. So one of the questions that I think a lot of people are going to be asking into qualifying today, where we're going to see a lot of drivers really pushing their limits, not only the limit of the car, but their limits as a driver. How much are they willing to push to the limit to extract some lap time and get further up the grid for the start of the race tomorrow afternoon? And I asked in the comment section, who will be the first to crash out of Quali? Be sure to let me know down there below. As Shirt has said, Max or Perez. TC says afternoon, and Pure Blood says let's go F1 family. Thank you very much for joining in on the stream, as we have about 8 minutes left to go till we start this session. Seeing all of the yachts out of the marina, getting ready for the start of the session as well. I'm sure there will be somewhere in a VIP section. Looking at all of the Leclerc fans in the grandstands around the circuit, of course, it is Charles Leclerc's home race, being a Monegasque driver. He lives in one of these buildings that's around the circuit. We saw that Jack Doohan has a house or a flat that is right on the start-finish straight, so he'll be watching from there throughout this weekend, as we're seeing Sergio Perez putting on his helmet to get ready for the start of the first qualifying session. Chennai in the comment section saying Monaco overtaking is not possible, so it is very important in qualifying. It certainly is. Qualifying is, unfortunately, usually one of the more exciting sessions in qualifying, more exciting in Monaco, more exciting than the race on Sunday. But we'll have to wait and see what happens this race weekend. It's going to be very tricky. It's at least sunny here today. There was some predictions of rain this weekend, but it seems to be nice and clear with only 4.3 kilometers an hour winds, and the track temperature is 48 degrees Celsius, air temperature being 21.6 degrees Celsius. So good temperatures for these drivers, good conditions for them as well. They'll be wanting to go through it as cleanly as possible today. It is a very difficult circuit, being super narrow and super technical. Charles Leclerc with his custom helmet for this race weekend, just giving over his Richard Mille watch to his race engineer. Richard Mille, of course, being one of the sponsors of Ferrari. 6 minutes left to go until we get the green flag here in Monaco. This track produces some of the best qualifying laps. That's why we see replays of the likes of Senna, who was one of the best qualifiers Formula One has ever seen. Max Verstappen has the opportunity this weekend to break his record of 8 poles in a row. Max Verstappen has equaled that record last time out in Imola. Could he beat that record this weekend, or will that stand if Max Verstappen gets beaten by the home hero Charles Leclerc, who has never won a race here in Monaco? Many deem it to be the Monaco curse for poor Charles Leclerc, but can he change all of that this race weekend? We now have the Formula One titles rolling ahead of this qualifying session. Pureblood with their predictions saying Piastri P1, Max P2, and Leclerc P3. Some people have been saying that the Ferraris have had their engine modes on full from the beginning of the weekend, and the others have been sandbagging, but we'll have to wait and see whether that is true. We saw the likes of Yuki Tsunoda getting quite close to the top at one point. At the end of the session, he ended up down in P9. His teammate, Daniel Ricciardo, still not finding the pace that he needs, and he was down in P18. We're hoping Daniel Ricciardo can just pick it up once again and return to the form of Daniel Ricciardo of old. But we're now looking at some of the stats about this 8th round of the Formula One Championship in 2024, round 8 of 24 for Monaco, the most iconic and historic race on the Formula One calendar. Looking at the stats, though, it is a 3.3 kilometer circuit with 44% of the time being spent at full throttle. The track lap record was set by Lewis Hamilton with a 1 minute and 10 seconds. The top speed is 293 kilometers an hour with 19 turns and an elevation of 41.96 meters. The tyre compounds we have here this weekend are the C5, C4, and C3 compounds, C5 being your soft, C4 your medium, and C3 being the hards. These are the softest of the Pirelli range for a circuit that's not usually high in tyre degradation. This is unfortunately not the same for Williams, who have been suffering with high tyre degradation for the 2nd year in a row at the circuit, clearly just having a fundamental issue in the setup of their car that causes a lot of degradation around this circuit. Alex Albon quite critical on the radio about this issue, and unfortunately they didn't seem to be able to fix it at the end of FP3. Just looking at the weather conditions, once again, the wind has picked up a little bit to 7.6 kilometers an hour. Of course, we are in a seaside country, and the track temperature is now 47 degrees Celsius, and the air temperature is 21.4 degrees Celsius. So Beautiful conditions out here in Monaco as we're looking over the grandstands around this historic city. Looking at the leaders of the practice sessions this weekend, Hamilton topped the first session, Leclerc topped the second and the third. So who will top qualifying here today? As we have Lindiwe in the comment section saying hello to everyone. They're all also saying hello everybody. I missed P3 practice 3 this afternoon. I had to give a lecture. Looking forward to quali. I'm also certainly looking forward to qualifying later on. Chana is saying, in general, Perez plays a great role in street circuits, hoping the same from him here today. He seems to have been struggling a bit though this weekend. As we look at the Constructors' Championship, Red Bull still leading that with 268 points, Ferrari in second with 212, McLaren in third place there. I didn't see the points, but they are also in the 160s if I remember correctly. Fernando Alonso currently leading the drivers waiting at the end of the pit lane, waiting for the green light to be shown with 2 minutes left on the clock. Lando Norris, though, also lined up waiting for that light to go out. We have a long queue. Of course, that is something we're going to see a lot of this weekend, is traffic around this Monaco street circuit. It is a very, very quick lap here, 1 minute and 10 seconds being the track lap record. We're expecting probably low 111s, maybe getting into the 110s again here today, but it is certainly going to be affected by traffic once again here, as Max Verstappen has been quite vocal throughout the weekend after being held up on his hot laps. I would not be surprised if we get some more hot radio moments from Max Verstappen, who seems to be at the end of the pit lane dash here this afternoon. Daniel Ricciardo in his V-carb waiting at the end of the pit lane. Oscar Piastri as well. And Lewis Hamilton near the front as well, is now the green light is shown and they are leaving the pit lane. We have Lewis Hamilton, then George Russell, then Logan Sargent is the next one to get out onto the racetrack, as we have 18 minutes for Q1. I'm expecting a red flag pretty quickly in this first session. And of course, the timer does not stop. So if you do not have a lap time in, then you could be at a huge amount of risk. That is why everyone is attempting to get out first thing in order to put a lap time on the board. Superman saying it seems like fable that Ocon podiumed last year. It certainly doesn't feel like it was last year. It feels like a while ago, as we're still seeing drivers leaving the pit lane. It is now Fernando Alonso's turn. He's waited patiently for a gap. As TC says, this is the most exciting qualifying so far this year. It certainly is set to be nice and close here today. As Superman says, the quali is the race. It certainly is. Old Man Root once again in the comment section saying hello from us, everyone. Desperately hoping for Danny to find something and Oscar to get into the top 3. He certainly does pull something out in qualifying and has been able to in the last couple of races, being one of the better qualifiers in that McLaren car, as we're now watching Lewis Hamilton starting his first push lap of Q1. Next up to start their hot laps is Russell, Albon, and then Sargent. So waiting for those sector times to start coming up on our timing boards. As we're watching one of the McLarens of Norris now coming through the first corner to start his first hot lap too. Big sparks coming underneath his car as he comes through turn 3, waiting to see his first sector time compared to Hamilton. Purple for Lando Norris, a 19.4 in that first sector. TC saying Red Bull will be quick for quali. We'll have to wait and see. They've been struggling a bit with balancing throughout the weekend. Max and Perez both complaining about it giving them headaches, as well as Perez complaining he couldn't see, especially coming into turn, I think it was turn 3. Yes, turn 3, where Lewis Hamilton is now climbing as he aborted his first lap and now once again attempting another lap. He does a 19.067 through that first sector, but not fastest. Draws Russell purple in the first sector, bettering Lewis Hamilton's first sector time. Hamilton approaching turn 10, 11, the really difficult left-right hand chicane. Does it very neat and tidy. Now approaching to back, the very fast left-hander going through there at around 200 kilometers an hour, threading it through the swimming pool sector, where we saw Valtteri Bottas go into the wall. Verstappen fastest in the first sector right now. Russell goes through the middle sector, 53. Hamilton now approaching the line. He crosses it and does a 112.954 to put himself in provisional pole for now. Russell approaching the line. Where can he put his Mercedes? A 113.2 for third place right now. Verstappen coming through the middle sector, 53.2 through sector 2. Verstappen threads it through 19 and 20. DRS opens wide, approaching the start-finish line. Where can he put himself? He goes first with a 112.790, fastest in the first and third sectors. 112.790 for Verstappen, 112.954 for Hamilton. Tsunoda third with a 113.0, Sargent fourth with a 113.1, as Magnussen tops the times with a 112.572, as does Hülkenberg with a 112.416. So now our order is Hülkenberg, Magnussen, Verstappen. As I say that, Piastri goes third. Hülkenberg, Magnussen, Piastri, Verstappen, Hamilton, Tsunoda is our top 6. But what can Leclerc do? Stroll goes fifth with a 112.8, ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Track evolving very quickly. Those who had the first fastest times had just done their banker laps to make sure that they would be in for the rest of the weekend. Leclerc getting really close to the barrier through turn 10, really dialed in. Through to back, approaching the swimming pool sector, threading it through 15 and 16, staying away from the wall. Now through Rasgas. Final corners on the circuit now for Leclerc. Opens up the rear wing. Where can he put his Ferrari? Only 6th place with 112.839. Behind Stroll and behind Verstappen, as Lando Norris is 0.9 up on Perez this time, the driver to beat. Current drivers at risk: Gasly, Norris, Ricciardo, Zhou, and Sainz, with 11 minutes left of this Q1 session. Race control noting a moment for impeding there, as Lando Norris jumps up to P3 with a 112.609. Russell, purple in the first sector. Hamilton, personal best in the first sector. Russell been struggling with the steering in his car this weekend. Seems to have it under control now, as he's 0.2 up on Hülkenberg through the middle sector, but his first fastest sector has been stolen away now, as he has a little bit of traffic approaching Rasgas. Stroll gets well out the way. Verstappen, though, purple in the first sector now, going even faster than Hülkenberg. Russell finishes up his lap, goes fastest with a 112.267. Leonardo Longhi saying, hello there from Italy, back with you for my favorite Formula One race, as Hamilton puts his Mercedes into third place. Verstappen really extracting it all through the middle sector, 0.032 up on Russell. Verstappen complaining through FP3 saying, if I have to continue doing this, I'm going to end up in the wall, meaning that he's just really having to push the car much more than it should. Well, he should be, and he feels that he might just ended up in the wall. But for now, it's certainly working as he takes the first place with a 112.084.183 ahead of George Russell. Piastri's up in the middle sector by 0.3 seconds now, though. Piastri finding some great pace out on circuit. It's also the fight of the V-carbs here this weekend. Ricciardo and Tsunoda right with each other at the moment as Piastri got really close to the barriers. He takes top spot with a 111.8. Verstappen 0.2 down on that time now. Leclerc going through turn 11 and 12. Now approaching to back, a real high-speed left-hander. As Alonso puts his Aston Martin up into P3 with a 112. Leclerc down in the middle sector, clearly losing all the pace that we thought he had. He's got something on his end plate. He's got some tape or something by the looks of it on his front wing. Daniel Ricciardo just watching what happened for him with a lot of traffic coming up towards Casino Square. Daniel Ricciardo clearly really getting caught out there as we're watching even more impeding issues from the likes of Alex Albon right on the inside of Casino there, as Sainz says, whoa, traffic. I did say there would be issues with traffic at the circuit. Still, the drivers keeping it clean. Certainly quite impressed with that for now. But will they be able to continue doing that as we are 8 minutes towards the end of Q1? The current drivers in the bottom 5, Daniel Ricciardo, Logan Sargent, Sergio Perez, Valtteri Bottas, and Zhou Guanyu as Gasly moves himself up into P3. Verstappen going once again faster in Sector 1. Leclerc just complaining that they're currently running out of phase with everyone else as Russell goes into second place with a 111.939. The track is evolving quite a lot at the moment. Verstappen on a hot lap right now. Perez finishing up a hot lap too, coming through turns 19 and 20. Going over the bump there, not as well as he would have liked to. Cross the line, only good enough for 14th. Odd that he is struggling so much while his teammate puts in a 111.9. Lap times really close to each other right now. 0.05 is Russell to Piastri's gap. Verstappen to Piastri, 0.08. So very, very close between the top 3 as Piastri puts, and I expect Russell and Verstappen to follow suit. 7 minutes remain of this first qualifying session. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not already, as well as check out the links down in the description to join our channel members, as well as check out our channel partners, BITDEFENDER, for all of your cybersecurity needs. Gasly jumps into the pits along with Alonso and Ocon. Hamilton, currently personal best through the first sector, waiting to see what he can do through the middle sector to try and pick up some pace to match Piastri. 0.1 down on Piastri in the first sector. That should put him behind Verstappen, though. Russell pits. Sainz, 0.3 down on Piastri in the middle sector. That should put him behind Alonso for 6th place. Hamilton crosses the line, makes up a lot of time in the final sector, puts himself second, 0.03 behind Piastri. Carlos Sainz finishes up his lap. He goes 4th, 0.06 behind Piastri as well now. Watching Leclerc now setting up his final push lap for the 5 minutes and 30 seconds to go. You would expect them to want to finish on the set so that they don't have to waste another tire. Another random human saying, wake up VCarb, show them what you can do. Currently sitting 16th and 17th. Leclerc currently looking for a lap time. 0.06 up on Piastri though in the first sector. He has a Red Bull ahead of him right now. Little bit of understeer coming through turn 8. Really close to the barriers though, as that Red Bull has just run away from him now. Braking hard through turn 10 and 11. 212. Now approaching to back. And coming as the final sector, 0.02 down on Piastri through the swimming pool chicane. Passes his teammates. Now through Rasgas with that different line that he's been taking so close to the barrier. Now through the final 2 sectors, yellow flag shown. Magnussen goes fastest with a 111.8. Now Charles Leclerc crosses the line with a 111.653 to take that top spot. 4 minutes and 20 seconds left to go, as Charles Leclerc's girlfriend smiles as he is in that top spot. Hülkenberg goes up to P3. Chennai asking what is the issue with Perez. He's been struggling all weekend, unfortunately. Both Red Bulls not as happy as we would expect them to be. Ricciardo improves on his lap time for P11. Albon now pushing out on circuit. He's currently the driver at risk. Now is when the drivers really start to push if they are under pressure. And that can always cause some issues out on circuit, as we're seeing a little bit of the branding lying all over the circuit in a few places. Russell improves on his lap time for a 111.492. Leclerc goes second, behind him 0.1 down. Stroll in third. Then it's Magnussen and Hülkenberg and Piastri then in sixth. Hamilton and Sainz are on outlaps. Verstappen is still out on circuit, but he is down in 9th place. TC saying whoever goes out near the end of the session seems to get the good lap time. Yes, of course, because the circuit evolves as the drivers put lap times in. They put even more rubber down on circuit as Verstappen gets ahead of Stroll, but only up for 3rd place. Sargent improves his lap time for P11 now. New driver at risk is Ocon as Albon moves himself up into P5. Tsunoda setting a purple middle sector. Tsunoda coming through the final 2 corners now, really close to the barriers. Crossing the line, he goes up to P7. Brilliant from Yuki Tsunoda. Daniel Ricciardo is the final driver at risk. He's now dropped into that dropout zone. Will he be able to take another lap round? 2 minutes and 15 seconds remaining. Norris currently in the pits with 2 minutes remaining of the session. He is in the bottom 5, as is Sergio Perez, Bottas and Zhou, as well as Daniel Ricciardo, and Gasly is the current driver at risk. TC saying Williams P5 exclamation mark. Certainly brilliant from him as Perez only moves himself into 14th. Perez still in massive amounts of danger. Hamilton moves himself up into P2. Lando Norris on an outlap. Will he be able to get this done in time? Sergio Perez, certainly not enough for him. He will be needing to put in another lap time. Alonso down in 13, also still really at risk, as is Sainz. A lot of drivers needing to improve on their lap times. Still driving cleanly, though. I expected a red flag or at least a little bit of an incident into the wall, but clean driving from the drivers so far. The projected knockout time being a 111.9. Current drivers at risk: Sargent, Gasly, Ricciardo, Norris, Bottas, and Zhou down in those top or the bottom 5 positions that will be dropped out at the end of the session. Alonso now coming through the final sector. He needs to improve with 50 seconds left on the clock. Where does he put himself? No improvement as he backs off. That is it. 13th place is where he is. very, very, very vulnerable, as now Lando Norris is waiting in the queue. He's the last one in the queue before turn 19 and 20, as Alexandros says, what the hell is Perez doing? He's really at risk at the moment, down in P14. Lando Norris starts his lap time in time with 20 seconds on the board. Gasly ahead of him is on a hot lap. He certainly needs to hope that Gasly keeps it neat and tidy and does not affect his lap. Otherwise, he could be out of this first session. He is 0.1 up on Sargent, the driver he needs to beat to get out of this Q1 session. Perez was able to get another lap time in. Sargent improves to 14th, putting Perez in 15th, really close to that dropout zone. Lando Norris, personal best in the first sector. What can he do in the middle sector, coming through turn 10 and 11, really close to the barriers there. Lindiwe saying Perez is in serious trouble. Norris coming through to back. 0.3 up on Sargent's time. Ricciardo improves up to P8. Piastri 0.1 up on Russell in the middle sector. Perez improving onto his first sector now. Lando Norris coming through 19 and 20. He needs to improve on his lap time to get out of that bottom 5. Norris improves for P9. What can Piastri do? He goes second by 0.008 from Russell. So close between them. Perez really fighting with the car through the final 2 corners. He comes across the line. Can he improve enough? No, Perez is out in Q1. Our dropout drivers are Alonso, Sargent, Perez, Bottas, and Zhou Guanyu, all out in the first session of qualifying. And the big name out there is Sergio Perez and Fernando Alonso. Certainly not expecting those 2 drivers to drop out in Monaco qualifying. Both really good street race qualifiers out in the first session here today. Clearly a very, very interesting session. Very, very weird that both of them are struggling so badly on these soft tires around the circuit, while their teammates seem to be having a completely polar opposite experience in the car. As Perez gets told P18 and he says, what a beeping joke. As Chennai is saying Sargent is better than Perez, what in the world? What a qualifying session that first session was. Waiting for session 2 now. As Alexandra says, Perez is officially out of the team. Certainly not what he needs to be doing when he is in contract negotiations with Red Bull right now. Reportedly being offered a 1-year contract extension, but wanting a 2-year. Leonardo Longhi is saying Bottas and Zhou are way slower than the others. As G. Peterson says, Perez out, Merckx in front. Monaco has plenty of surprises left. It certainly does. That is for sure. Simeon says, please, Mercedes, don't touch the car. And Raul Pojito also just reacting to Sergio Perez being dropped out of the first session of qualifying. Certainly a big talking point is him and Alonso getting dropped out. Certainly looks a little bit shell-shocked as he takes off his steering wheel, as his teammate still has at least another 2 sessions ahead of him. Old Man Roo reacting there to both Aussies getting through, saying that it is currently nail-biting. It certainly has been a nail-biting first session. Just watching Max Verstappen having maybe a bit of a moment into the first corner. Just getting so close there, to the point that he's going up onto the sidewalk, the pedestrian lane, just using every single millimeter. He's 2 centimeters away from the wall. That's like nothing. There's still margin though, is what I'm hearing for Verstappen. Mango J saying, I am back. Thank you very much for joining us in the stream. Miss Q1, but What a Q1 you missed there. Sergio Perez out, Fernando Alonso out, Alex Albon up in P6 ahead of Verstappen, Daniel Ricciardo and Yuki Tsunoda managing to get out of that first session. But what an interesting one that this is going to end up being for Q2 and Q3. Yared saying Shah will take pole. And TC says, fancy buying a holiday flat in Monaco, Reese. I certainly would love to. I just don't know if I'd be able to afford that, as I think they go for a couple million euros. So, waiting for the second session to get underway. Lindy, we're saying, do you think that Perez's car performances? Do you think that Perez's car performance is a true indicator of Red Bull's car overall, as both drivers are struggling, but Verstappen is managing because he is Verstappen and an exceptional driver? So, just waiting now as not Perez, Lando Norris is getting sent out of the pits to wait at the end of the pit lane. Certainly was not expecting George Russell to be up at the top of the timing boards going into Q2. We have the Haas of Kevin Magnussen waiting at the end of the pit lane right now, waiting for that green flag. Mango J asking, when does Q2 start? I think it starts in the next minute or so, based on the fact that we have cars waiting at the end of the pit lane. Oscar Piastri getting ready to be released from his garage. And Samindi just giving their support for Max here, and Leonardo saying, fun Q1 fact, both Red Bulls have a Williams car right ahead. That is certainly true. Max Verstappen waiting at the end of the pit lane as well, as is Charles Leclerc. So waiting for that green flag to be shown out on circuit. Being asked, did someone sabotage Perez's car? I thought he was much better before going to Red Bull. Well, he's been doing well in Red Bull, but I think that the direction of the car has gone a lot more towards Max Verstappen, and they seem to be struggling with their new upgrades on their car, just not able to match the likes of the Ferraris, the Mercedes, and those McLarens. But can Max Verstappen pull out something special here today to beat Ayrton Senna's all-time record of qualifying pole positions taken in a row, currently sitting tie with Verstappen on 8. As Ricciardo is the first driver to leave out of the end of the pit lane. 14 minutes are remaining of the session as Fernando Alonso, having a tough day, is out of the car and going towards wherever he will be staying tonight, maybe just to do some debriefs and look over some of the data. Hopefully he can have a better race tomorrow, possibly being able to do something in the strategy, but really disappointing that he was not able to maximize on qualifying in Monaco, where you can rarely make or break your race. Unfortunately for himself, it has been broken. Lando Norris following on with him at the moment on his warm-up lap, just coming through to back and approaching the swimming pool section. Mango J just saying, hoping Leclerc gets P1 or Lando into P2. As we see Lando Norris approaching the final 2 corners, setting himself up to start his hot lap. Swings it through turn 19, left into turn 20, and now he starts attacking the 3-kilometer circuit. It's going to be a bit of a quieter session now because, of course, you've lost 5 cars, a little bit less traffic on circuit. The drivers will be much happier with that. They'll be even happier during Q3 when there's another 5 drivers dropped out. as Lando Norris goes purple in the first sector. Those big qualifiers, though, dropped out of the session. Certainly we're not expecting that to happen here, as Max Verstappen steals the first fastest sector away from Lando Norris. Yeah, it's saying if Charles takes pole, he will win, because overtaking on this track is like Logan winning a race, and unless Ferrari screw up. Verstappen still purple in the first sector. Lando Norris goes purple in the middle sector. Can Verstappen also match him or better him? Waiting for Verstappen to come through there. He does a personal best with a 52.2. Not better, but waiting to see what the overall lap times will be. Lando Norris crosses the line with a 111.372. Charles Leclerc goes fastest in the middle sector. So it's all between these three drivers right now. Verstappen crosses the line with a 111.1, fastest time of the day. Charles Leclerc approaching the line now. What can he do at his home Grand Prix in Q2? Crosses the line and he goes second, 111.356, as Ocon comes onto the radio saying, I've been blocked. Tsunoda jumps up to second place. Lap times jumping all over now. Oh, just seeing the Haas of Magnussen having contact with the wall after turn one. As Sainz takes his top spot now away from Verstappen on circuit. Tsunoda down in P3, Leclerc P4, Norris 5th, Piastri 6th, Hülkenberg 7th, Ricciardo 8th, Gasly 9th, Ocon 10th, Albon 11th, and then the rest without times as of yet. Tang saying, if Lewis takes a victory, I'll be very proud because he is driving a tractor. The Mercedes seeming to find a bit more pace though this weekend, so certainly not looking like a tractor out here in Monaco. A very expensive and shiny tractor, if it is one. Watching Hamilton's lap time, what can he do through the first sector? 18.659, not a purple sector through there, but hopefully staying along with those top three. 10 minutes left of the second section. Hamilton coming through the tunnel now into the light again and approaching turn 11 and 12. Verstappen going faster once again in the first sector, purple again. Hamilton really close to the wall, through to back. Now into the swimming pool sector, out through 16 and 17. Now through Rasgas. And completing his lap through turn 19 and 20, really bouncing all over the bumps of the circuit. Verstappen, personal best in the middle sector again. Doesn't go purple though. The car is the strongest in the first and the third sector. Now coming through the final corner, DRS open, crossing the line, and he goes fastest with a 111.019.1 ahead of Carlos Sainz, getting also close to the 110s. Leclerc still not looking to improve too much, improves only with a 111.2, not improving his position, as we see John Legend watching on from the pit lane. Two Mercedes supposedly being on an old set of tyre, as Esteban Ocon just watching him getting blocked from one of the Haas's. Ocon's put himself up into P4 though. Brilliant lap from himself, and Tsunoda still sticking it up in P3, holding himself firm. 0.2 seconds behind Verstappen's lap time. Alex Albon, who has not been happy with the grip on the front the entire weekend. they've been eating away at their tires and just not having the grip that they need. He's only 11th with a 111.607. Thank you very much for your words there. Archon was so blocked, says TC in the comments as well. Russell dives into the pits to put on some new tires, as is Leclerc. I expect the majority of the grid to jump in now so that they can put on some fresh tires. Gasly coming through the tunnel now into the light, approaching down the hill into turn 10 and 11, tricky braking zone. Superman saying 130 is raining. I assume he's talking about Pierre Gasly's lap time of a 131. Gasly now finishing up his lap. Hopefully he'll be able to go a bit faster. Crosses the line and he goes up to P6 with a 111.3, much more representative for himself. So currently in the drop zone is Daniel Ricciardo in 15th, Hülkenberg 14th, Magnussen 13th, Albon 12th, Stroll in 11th. Hamilton and Russell are currently on outlaps, as is Piastri, with 6 minutes now left on the clock for Q2. Pole position still not necessarily far away. Sainz only 0.1 behind Verstappen. So now the two Mercedes put on a new set of tyres. They were originally on an old set of tyres. Don't forget that, for all of the people bashing the Mercedes right now. They have put on a brand new set of tyres and are going round well on circuits. Lindy, we're surprised that the Alpines and the Hasses are in the mix. I'm more surprised about the pace of the V-Carb this weekend. Hamilton now approaching the middle sector marker through to back. Turn 12. Now up in the middle sector, 0.069 down on Verstappen, but purple middle sector. Could he steal this in the end? Through Rasgas, approaching turn 19 and 20. Jumping and bouncing all over that exit curb. With 5 minutes left to go of the session, Lewis Hamilton moves himself up into P3 with a 111.110. All the ones for Lewis Hamilton. Piastri flying out on circuit right now. Leclerc starts a hot lap now for himself, as Piastri goes fastest with a 110.756, the first 110s of the weekend. Russell also joins them in the 110s with a 110.929. Verstappen goes on an outlap with 4 minutes left of the session. Everyone going to put in their final laps of Q2. These are the tyres that they'll be using during the race, during their first stint. McLaren and Piastri saying, I've hit the wall. Hopefully causing no damage there. Leclerc coming through to back. Will he be able to respond to Piastri's time? He's 0.1 down. 15 and 16 now. He comes through 17. Close to the wall is Leclerc. Now through Rasgas. And the final 2 corners on the circuit. Down the long run to Sanderbot, turn 1. He crosses the line and goes up to second place with a 110.825. Jackie X, the 8-time race winner for Ferrari and Formula 1, watching on here in Monaco. Lando Norris going out on circuit, personal best in the first sector. How far down is he in the middle sector? To his teammate Oscar Piastri, 0.085, ever so slightly down in that middle part of the lap right now. What can he do in the final sector now? Coming through Rasgas, approaching 19 and 20, the final 2 major corners on the circuit, jumping over the entry curb, keeping it stable on the exit curb. Now, crosses the line, and he goes fastest by 0.02 seconds, 20 thousandths of a second now. McLaren currently in 1 and 2. Albon pushing everything out of his Williams car. Through the final 2 corners, now approaching the start-finish line. Can he get himself out of the elimination zone? Yes, he can. 8th position is where he goes, but there are still 2 minutes left of the session, so he's not clear just yet. Pureblood saying Q3 is going to be a banger as we have 2 minutes left of this Q2 session now. Watching on board with Lance Stroll climbing up the hill towards Chapel and Casino. All the left lock as he goes through turn 3 and 4. Right hand into turn 4. Now down the hill towards the hairpin. Now down 7 and 8 for Stroll. Personal best in this first and second sector. Slight light up of the rear, spinning his tires as he comes out of the exit. As now Stroll comes through the big chicane. Through to back and approaching the swimming pool sector. 0.075 down on the driver he needs to be to get out of that bottom 5. George Russell getting out of his way as he comes through Ras Gas and through the final corner. DRS wide open, approaching the start-finish line. Can he get himself out? No, he cannot. Slower lap time in the end, unfortunately. Verstappen improves on his lap time to almost put in an identical time to Lando Norris. 0.013 seconds behind Lando Norris's time right now. Oh, so close between these drivers. Ricciardo pushing to get himself out of that bottom zone. 0.2 down on Ocon's time. Gasly pushing as well. He has improved. Hamilton puts himself up into P6 with the 111.0. Ricciardo next across the line. Where can he improve? Only up to P13. Gasly now, where can he go? He goes up to P5. Much better for that Alpine here today. Yuki Tsunoda, he's hoping to get out of the bottom 5. He is currently the driver at risk with a 111.2 being his last lap. Now coming through 19 and 20. Can he get out of that bottom 5? He does at the last second. For P9, dropping Alex Albon out in the second session. Albon not being dropped out, but being the driver at risk, as Ocon, Hülkenberg, Ricciardo, Stroll, and Magnussen are all the drivers that are eliminated from this Q2 session. Daniel Ricciardo comes onto the radio saying, I really struggled to get the tyres there in that first push, so that possibly being one of the reasons why he struggled here today. But can he do something special in the race tomorrow? Drivers starting a little bit further down the grid will be hoping for the weather to intervene maybe a little bit in the race to make things a little bit more exciting. TC saying Albon did well, as Jason Plays saying Ricciardo was doing well as well. Gasly coming onto the radio saying, well, being told we are P5, his reaction saying, let's go. So clearly a lot of excitement for Pierre Gasly to get out of that relegation zone at the last second. Tang saying Mercedes are safely through into Q3 as there's a yellow flag in all sectors at the moment. Just watching Esteban Ocon coming through the first corner. Big lockup. Very lucky to keep it out of the wall, though. And that would have been the reason that he didn't get out in the end, unfortunately. Lewis Hamilton watching a moment with him, also locking up as he's being a little bit tentative through turn 10, not wanting to hit the wall through there. Through swimming pool as well, just watching him fighting it through the exit of 17, just sliding the rear as we're watching Ocon or Gasly as well through the swimming pool sector, just glancing with the wall. Pure Blood giving their predictions saying Piastri, Max, and Leclerc for the end of Q3. I'm going to say Verstappen, Piastri, Norris. How many safety cars can we expect tomorrow? To minimum ? Asks G. Peterson. Well, I think we're guaranteed at least one throughout the race. As TC says, Max will take pole. Lewis will be around the top 6, I reckon, unfortunately. Not feeling good about him. Jason Plays saying Albon is cooking. Well, we'll have to see what happens in the upcoming few minutes as I expect us to get underway in the next 2. Mango J saying Leclerc P4 this time. I'm disappointed. They seem to have lost some of the pace from the practice sessions to now. So clearly the other teams were just being a little bit more conservative and pushing towards the race tomorrow in their practice sessions today. So that seems to be why Leclerc was able to top those sessions. And unfortunately, those supporting him this weekend might be a little bit disappointed that he doesn't have the pace that we were hoping for. So, no, just a reminder, no one has won the Monaco Grand Prix from outside the top 3 since 1985. So, who knows what will happen tomorrow? Can we get something different? Tang saying both Mercedes have gone into Q3. I had to correct myself, silly me. They should have been fine either way. They have the pace to get into Q3 this year. They've fallen out every now and then, but around Monaco, I would expect them to have the pace. Looking at the track conditions right now, 43 degrees Celsius track temperature, 63% humidity, and the air temperature being 21 degrees Celsius. As we've got a big banner over the grandstands for Charles Leclerc. In the Charles Leclerc grandstand, I'm being told as well. Mango J just saying, with the pace, I'm seeing Leclerc at least top 5 this weekend. He will certainly be hoping to be up higher than just 5th place. He'll be wanting that top spot for this weekend. But who we're watching with right now, Max Verstappen, will certainly be wanting to steal that away from anyone who thinks they have a chance. Jason Plays just saying their predictions. Lando 1, Lewis 2, Leclerc 3, Piastri 4, Max 5, Sainz 6. Sainz is with a Z at the end, not TZ, S. Russell 7th, Albon 8th, 9th is Gasly, 10th Tsunoda, and that is their top 10 predictions. Thank you very much for that, Jason Plays, as we are awaiting the start of this session. Lucy saying Lando P1 is the dream. As we see Gasly jump out of the pits now, as does Charles Leclerc. Just watching a replay now of Pierre Gasly and his lap time to get out of that previous session. Just watching with Piastri as well, and seeing how close he got to the wall, where he came onto the radio saying he had a bit of a clip with the wall. It must have been quite minimal for Piastri, because I don't even notice it. I think it may have been on the entry through 19 and 20. Mango J just saying that their prediction is for the race tomorrow, the finishes of the race. That will certainly be very interesting if that does happen. As we're watching the drivers all queuing at the end of the pit lane, waiting for the green light to be shown. Waiting for some of the best drivers on the planet to attack the streets of Monaco once again for Q3. This should be a super tight final session where drivers are separated by split seconds. Charles Leclerc currently building up tyre temperature on his outlap. TC saying it is hammer time, Lewis. So waiting for the drivers to finish their outlaps to see their first final attempts in qualifying here today, as we see Carlos Sainz Sr. Watching on from the Ferrari hospitality unit. Another random human also with their predictions for Quali, saying Piastri 1, Verstappen 2, Norris 3, Sainz 4, Leclerc 5, Russell 6, Tsunoda 7, Hamilton 8, Albon 9, and Gasly in 10th place. So let's see what happens as we're waiting for these drivers to start their hot laps. Carlos Sainz will be the first one to put in their hot lap. Everything now running on this qualifying session. You need to get a good banker lap in case someone bins it into the wall. Being a clean first and second section, but you never know what happens in this final session when everyone is extracting the absolute maximum from themselves and the car. Sainz coming through the first session now, sector now, waiting for his time, 19.8. Quickly being taken away from him. He seems to have backed off of his lap immediately as he comes through the middle sector. They are on what looks like older tyres as Hamilton goes faster through the first sector, coming now through turn 8 and 9 towards through the tunnel right now. Through 10 and 11, so close to the barriers on the left. Through to back. Russell personal best in the first sector. Hamilton purple in the second sector. 9 minutes remaining of the session. Hamilton coming to finish up his time. What can he put in? A 110.975 with Albon in second with a 111.8. Leclerc saying something's moved in the pedals, so not comfortable in his car right now. Hopefully they are able to sort that out. Certainly not ideal for the Monegasque driver. Purple in the middle sector. DRS open now, approaching the start-finish line. Where will he put his Ferrari? On provisional pole with a 110.418. Piastri, though, going quick out on circuit, but puts himself only in second with 110.444. Russell's time is deleted. Norris goes third with 110.940. Leclerc, Piastri, Norris is the top three right now. Verstappen backed out of his first time. Sainz finishes his lap only third with a 1:10.673, 0.2 down on his teammate in the sister Ferrari. Verstappen, faster in the first sector, but the second and third are where it counts. Russell now coming through the final sector, through the final two corners, wide into 19. Approaching the start-finish line, can he get into the top 5? Yes, he goes fourth. Verstappen coming through the middle sector now. Through to back. Verstappen 0.05 down on Leclerc in the middle sector. Oh, so close between these two phenomenal qualifiers. Now through Rasgas, needs to make up that tiny bit of time. It is half a tenth between Verstappen and Leclerc for provisional pole. Verstappen now coming towards the line. Where will he put his Red Bull? Only third with a 1:10.567, 0.01 or 0.149 behind Piastri and Leclerc. Oh, so close for the battle for pole position. Verstappen pushing on. Now everyone back into the pits. 6 minutes left on the clock. Now it will be who reacts first, who jumps out of the pits first, who sets their first lap. You do not want to be the first driver, but you want to be one of the last drivers to put in your lap time so that you can get the advantage of all that extra rubber out on circuit. Verstappen coming through the final sector now. Onto the radio, saying still the same issues around turn 5 and 10. He now dives into the pits. Max will be hoping that they can fix those issues that he's having on those corners, as we're watching Albon out on circuit, trying to improve on his lap time, 0.04 down on Leclerc's time right now. Faster than Verstappen. If he can continue that delta throughout the rest of his lap. Five minutes remaining of this session. 9 drivers in the pits. Alex Albon out on circuit though. No one else daring to jump out just yet, waiting for the opportune moment to get out on circuit. And we all know that they'll all jump out at the exact same time and there'll be a massive traffic jam. Albon moves himself up into P7. Gives himself a good final banker lap just in case something should happen in these final 4 minutes and 20 seconds. Verstappen getting ready to be released from his box. Brand new soft tires on his Red Bull contender. Mercedes waiting. Previous poles in Monaco, Verstappen last year, Leclerc the previous 2. Can Leclerc take it once again here in his home race? Albon comes onto the radio. Just being told nice as he moved himself up into P7. Leclerc leaves his pit box. This is it. This is what it all counts for here in Monaco. This could be the difference between winning and losing the race, getting pole position. So these drivers leaving for their outlaps. Verstappen's leaving. Sainz, Russell is also leaving, as is Hamilton, Gasly, and Tsunoda. Those still in the pits, Leclerc, Piastri, and Norris, but Leclerc is also on an outlap now. As Albon comes into the pits. The The drivers will now put themselves at absolute maximum risk by taking every single late braking zone they can, by just pushing that little bit more through the corners, as now Sainz starts his final push lap. Going through Sandevot, the first corner, climbing the hill towards Casino. Turn 3 now. Verstappen following Sainz on his hot lap. .5 down on Leclerc through the first sector. He should back off of this and then start again. As we're watching Hamilton now coming through the middle of the first sector, what can he do? He's 0.066 down on Leclerc in that first sector. 2 minutes remaining of the session now. As George Russell is up in the first sector. Into the light comes Hamilton, down towards turn 10 and 11. Very, very close to the barriers there. Almost looking like he was about to touch it. 18.2 is Russell's first sector time. Will anyone be able to beat that? Hamilton 0.1 behind Leclerc as he comes through sector 2. Hamilton trying to get into the top 5, comes through the 19th and final corner, opens the DRS, approaches the start-finish line. He goes up into P4 with a 110.621. Russell coming through Rasgas now. Leclerc also starts his push lap. DRS open for Russell, approaching the start-finish line. Can he also match his teammate? He goes P3 ahead of Max Verstappen. Leclerc pushing on circuit now. 50 seconds remaining. Verstappen has hit the wall. Could be someone else pushing up for that top spot here today. Verstappen having hit the wall. We don't know if there's any damage on his car. Leclerc improves on his final time with a 110.270. What can Piastri or Lando Norris do here today? Piastri approaching the line now. He goes second with a 110.424. Verstappen's bailed out of his final lap. So Verstappen is stuck down in P4. Now down to P5 as Sainz improves up into third. Where can Norris go? Norris improves to P4. Verstappen falls further down to P6. Verstappen, who's had a brilliant run of poles, loses out this weekend as he is done for the end of this qualifying session. What an end as Leclerc takes pole at his home race with Piastri in second, Carlos Sainz in third, Lando Norris in fourth, George Russell in fifth, Max Verstappen in sixth, Lewis Hamilton in seventh, Yuki Tsunoda eighth, Alex Albon ninth, and Pierre Gasly in 10th. Then continuing on down our order, Ocon in 11th, Hülkenberg 12th, Ricciardo 13th, Stroll 14th, Magnussen 15th, Alonso 16th, 17th is Sargent. The big talking point is Perez in 18th, Bottas in 19th, and Zhou Guanyu down in 20th place. A difficult weekend for the Red Bulls here. They expected it to be difficult. They told everyone that they weren't expecting much, as Piero Ferrari, the vice chairman of Ferrari, is here in Monaco watching on as his driver Charles Leclerc has put himself on pole position for the Monaco Grand Prix tomorrow afternoon. What a session that was. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel as well if you have not already. We are on our way towards 6,000 subscribers on this channel. Be sure to join us for tomorrow, where we will be streaming the Moto GP as well as the main event, the Monaco Grand Prix. Thank you very much for joining me here today. I've been Reese on Forever Motorsports. Cheers.